Welcome to the show that takes up no more than 5 minutes of your time, but could help you gain massive real estate knowledge. It's 5 Minutes in Real Estate with best-selling author Shane Willis.
Hello, Shane Willis, Pensacola real estate expert, bringing you today's episode. Hopefully you paid attention to the news yesterday. Notre Dame in Paris had a huge fire, and they thought that there was going to be a ton of lost art, lost history. I mean, going back to, man, that was just incredible. But it looks like it wasn't quite as bad as they thought it was going to be. And I was reading the headlines this morning. It looks like there's a bunch of European billionaires donating a ton of money to get that restored. So hopefully they get that restored back. That is a huge loss to the art world and to just culture in general. But anyways, I wanted to talk today about how often homeowners move and is now really a good time to sell. So one of the things that was a given all the way up until about 2010, that was actually after the crash started, was that people moved or refinanced their loans on average every 3 to 5 years. So the average was like 4 point something, right? We got those numbers, and I remember when I was in the mortgage industry, that's one of the main reasons that most of the interest is up front, because then it's almost pure profit if somebody is going to either refinance or move every 3 to 5 years. Well, how much of your mortgage do you pay off in the first 5 years? When I was in financial services, I learned of a rule called 50-25. It had to do with mortgages. Basically, the rule of 50-25 says that on a typical 30-year mortgage, once you've paid 50% of the time, or 15 years, you've only paid off 25% of the principal. So after 15 years, that actually starts to, you're starting to make more principal payments and interest. But all that interest is pushed up front, and it's because average people either refinance or move every 3 to 5 years. So one of the things that I found interesting is now with that information, the average now is 6 years. Actually, let me correct that. It went to 6. Now it's like 9.5. 9.5 years when people move. So does that mean there is a pent-up seller demand? Yeah, there is. I'm going to show you a report. If you go over to the show notes, I'm going to show you a report from the National Association of Realtors. Their seller traffic index is part of the Realtor Confidence Index. Okay, and it's going to show you that 1985 to 1986 percentage of population that moved that year 20.2%. 2017 to 2018 10. So it's half. Okay, so falling house prices. When that happened, that's a lot to blame for this, because we had a bunch of people that were underwater. So all they could do is just continue to make their mortgage payment and stay there. They couldn't sell. I mean, they could. They were short sales and other things, but they didn't really have to. Why? So now this report goes on, the Consumer Confidence Report goes on, and says 69% of people believe that now is a good time to sell a home. If you've been holding it for 9 years, I'm fairly confident you have equity. One of the properties I'm going to be selling later this summer, I actually bought in 2004. So I've owned the property now. Well, I bought it summer of 2004. I'm selling it summer of 2019. It's got positive equity now. But if you asked me in 2012 if it had positive equity, I would tell you no. That I had owned the property for 8 years and I was upside down. I was underwater. It was a rental, and luckily the rental paid enough to cover everything. I wasn't really making a bunch on it. I mean, literally, there were times I was making $20 a month. And so when I had to replace an air conditioner or have an air conditioner call, I actually lost money. But now we've got equity, and that's what we're going to wind up selling this summer. We've got a strong economy right now. Interest rates, if you heard me talk on my other podcast and this one, interest rates have made a surprise turn down. That has been a shocker this year. And wages are actually continuing to rise. So there's going to be homeowners that are going to want to put their property on the market. And if you haven't got over to 5 minutes or 5 minutes in real estate, you haven't gotten over to my Facebook page, Shane Willis, the Realtor. Get over there, because every week I'm going to be pinning this to the top of the thing. Is when I do my video blog. I'm turning it into a podcast as well. It's called How's the Market Pensacola, where you can see the different price points. So you can see where your property is, and you can tell if it's a hyper seller's market or a hyper buyer's market. And some of these hyper sellers markets are turning into just sellers markets. Listen to what I'm saying. They're turning into just some of the sellers markets, and some of the sellers markets are turning into neutral markets. You've got to pay attention to the price point that you're at, and price accordingly and market accordingly. So there's some great opportunities right now for sellers, especially in certain price points. Others, if you've got to sell it, great. You probably have equity in the property, but you're going to have to price things accordingly. You're going to have to market it accordingly, because there are some price points in our area that are hyper buyers markets. So the question that started the whole podcast was, is now a good time for a seller to sell? Yes, there is some seller pent-up demand. Is that going to be that way all the time as we sit here talking in April 2019? No, not necessarily. All right, that's all I got for you today. As always, if you've not subscribed to get the tips, tricks, graphs, infographics, get over to 5minutesinrealestate.com. It's 5minutesinrealestate.com. Also, like I said earlier, get over to the Facebook page like that. Shane Willis, the Realtor. Shane Willis, the Realtor. I'm putting a lot of stuff up over there. Usually pretty much every day. I'm putting some new information up, new videos, all kinds of things over there. So give me a share, give me a comment, give me a like. And that's what I ask on these podcasts too. If they found any value in this one or any other, do me a favor, share it on social media. Thanks for listening. Have a great day.